So going back to your clientele, who's the biggest client that you worked with?
Biggest client.
It doesn't have to be in terms of mainstream, just what you got out of the project for you personally.
Biggest client I can talk about. Obviously we do.
You don't have to name them, just talk about the experience and just...
No, I can name this one. Because we've worked with them, and it was quite recent as well. And to be honest, everything I've talked about so far, it brought all of that together. It was Bentley and Lamborghini.
So we're back at the Windmill HQ, the Punchline podcast, where it's all about mic, body and soul. So today's guest is actually a personal friend of mine, and we actually have known each other for a very long time because we went to the same school and we actually were in the same class for most subjects. Not to brag, but we were in the top set.
Yeah, that is true actually.
So basically, without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest, which is Gurjit Nandra, who's the director of Dr. Print, and I'll ask him to just give a quick introduction.
Yeah, well, that was a good enough introduction, Mo, to be fair. But yeah, it's been a while, man. We haven't seen each other since probably Lordswood. Got reconnected through Instagram, doing some business for yourself as well. But yeah, so I'm, current role is marketing director for Dr. Print. It's actually a family business. So my dad actually started it in 1976. So it's like going on over 40 years now.
Yeah.
It's been a while, but I actually only came into the business about 5 years ago. So I'm sure you'll ask me plenty of questions anyway, but I worked in recruitment after uni for about 6 years. And then an opportunity came up basically with the business, and, my elder brother's in the business as well. And they were just like, look, we've got plans to grow, and like we need somebody 100% reliable to come on board. And that's when I took the plunge, basically.
So talk about Dr. Print. What is Dr. Print for those people who don't know?
So basically, Dr. Print, we're a brand marketing solutions company, basically. So our main aim is to work with businesses and help them to find ways to engage with their customers. And we do that through 3 channels, basically. So we've got graphic design. So we produce kind of outstanding design work for our customers to help them communicate their message correctly to their customers. The way we think about it is like, think about going to a shop and think about like the clothes that you look at or the products that you look at on a shelf. There's always something that stands out to you and speaks to you. Yeah. And that's the purpose of marketing as well. It's finding out how you're going to engage your target audience. Yeah. You're never going to be everything to everybody. Yeah. But you focus on your target audience, and that's what we help our customers to do, is find out who their audience is and, how we can target them through good design work. Printing is something that we've always done. So
this the second brand?
Yeah. So the second, you could say, element of our business is printing. So we were traditional printers, basically, from when my dad started in 1976.
So printing games evolved a lot, hasn't it?
Printing games evolved, man.
So in 1976, what was the printing game?
So the printing game, that was like before I was born, basically. I'm born in 86. But yeah, back then, it was Heidelberg presses, Komori presses. I think my dad had, at his peak, he had about 25, 26 staff. Pretty much running the presses 24/7. So I remember growing up, and my dad would come home from work, whatever, 6 o'clock, have his roti, and then be back at work, checking up, on the production staff. Yeah. Basically 9 o'clock. Sometimes he'll be there again until like 12, 1. Then he'll have to go again in the morning at about 6.
Just basically relentless graft. Yeah.
So it was a relentless graft, and mum and dad did that together, basically. And they're still together, like they're still in the business. So dad kind of oversees everything, and mum still does the accounts, bookkeeping.
The proper hands-on.
Yeah, the proper hands-on, make sure all the money's there, basically. And me and my brother aren't pissing it up the wall. So,
do you know, from that time till now, you mentioned a few brands. I'm assuming they're printer manufacturers. and one sounded quite German to me.
Yeah, Heidelberg.
So is that like the top quality?
So yeah, I mean, there's loads of different presses. I'll be honest with you. If my older brother was here, he's the tech guy, or my dad, and they know their machines. But like you said, printing evolved, right? And that's where the third branch of what we do kind of came in. But printing game evolved. Like, we had a niche in the retail sort of sector. So we used to produce pocket plasters, swing tickets. So, for people that produce denim and jeans and stuff like that, all of that used to be produced in the UK. And we used to produce all the stuff that used to go onto it. So all the stuff that you'd cut off when you buy a new pair of jeans, like even the labels, like the patch that used to go on the back. Then all of that moved to like China, India.
Is that because of cost or?
Yeah, because of cost, because obviously labor was a lot cheaper, kind of out there. So back then, I think it was about probably 20 years ago now, like there was a massive change in the UK. And it was almost like a switch. All of the business just went, and it went to China, India.
And it happened quite fast, didn't it?
It happened really, really quickly. So at that time, my elder brother had just graduated from University of Birmingham, had an economics degree, no work experience, nothing like that. But from a young age, from like probably when he was 11, 12 years old, even me, like when we were younger, we used to go into the factory and help out with bits and bobs that we could do. So my brother already knew the business, so my dad brought him in. And for the first few years, he was just trying to find his feet, and literally they were just trying to find a way of getting out from doing what they were doing and adapting the business to become profitable again. And that's when it clicked to my brother. He thought, well, merchandise, because a lot of people started asking, they're like, you know what, you've done a lot of good print work for us in the past. Well, what if we gave you this notebook? Can you brand onto a notebook? Can you do pens? And then he started inquiring. And then like the next 15 years, literally, he spent networking and building up a supply chain. So now, if you ever come to our factory now, we don't actually have any printing presses anymore. We remodel the business to an outsourced model. So now what we've got is a huge supply chain network, basically, of trade printers and specialist printers. So whenever we get a job in, we can see from start to finish, we've got all the knowledge of printing processes, machines and stuff. And like I said, anybody we're working with is on a trade basis. So the customer still gets the best deal. Do you know what I mean? So we're effectively like a design agency / print broker is how we operate. But that's how the third arm of the business came in, which is promotional merchandise.
So nowadays, all about promotion, isn't it?
Yeah. You know what? It's everything. Like personal branding has become a big thing as well. So like even like yourself, like obviously like I've the one thing I've always known about you is that you've been into your boxing. So like I said earlier, to Amar, the one thing I remember about Mo is, I don't know what you call it, man, but when you jump through the rope twice, and I remember seeing you do that in the gym when we were like, 11, 12 years old. So I know you've always been into it. And now obviously, you've got this gym, you're a head coach, you've started this podcast, and you're kind of on that personal branding journey.
See, some of our, I think your testament to this, I remember Mr. Kilver in design and graphics, and he used to always talk about branding, and there was a competition, Schneider Freeway, when Lincoln and yourself, and we did quite well in that. But that was about designing a packaging for something as simple as stationery, and how does the packaging affect the product being sold? And like obviously, like you said, through the boxing, I've not been as much like relentless with the marketing side, because for me, the students normally sell the club. We've had national champions, regional champions, divisional champions. We've taken part in so many competitions. We've been international. We've taken part in international competitions. So for me, the numbers is the marketing, if you know what I mean. So if I get one person with success, I get quite an exposure. But if I get 10 people with success, I get more exposure. So the product itself sells itself. But recently, only very recently, we started going into the branding, and we've reached out to yourself for the logo, to tidy up the logo and make things look proper. So I think from an early age, because of our teachers and what we studied, art and graphics, we had an interest. And that kind of helps us with the design process. So we're not going into it blindly. Like, I'm not going in and... Yeah.
I remember you did art. I remember seeing some of your pieces. You know what? It's weird because I've got a crazy memory, but I know you did this piece in your final year, and it was like some kind of a hand or something coming out of the ground.
Yeah.
Am I right?
That's right. Yeah.
So you see, I remember that, but I didn't do art myself, if you remember, because at the time, obviously, I think we had Mr. Billington and we had Mr. Waring.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of them even left.
I think Mr. Billington left and Mr. Waring was on his own for a while.
Yeah, exactly. And for me at the time, even though my dad studied art, and like his goal actually was to become like an artist or like an art teacher or something related to art. But his circumstances changed. Like he was only 19 when his dad passed away. Yeah, had a heart attack. No second chances, one heart attack. And that was it. So he all of a sudden he was the oldest. And his youngest brother was like 4 years younger than him. And then the youngest one was like 6 years younger. Then he had two sisters. His mum, who wasn't working at the time, it was like, she was like a homemaker. So all of a sudden got no money. Yeah, no money basically. Like, there was no money left for the family or anything like that because it wasn't like that back then. He literally had to use his skills. So he became a sign writer, literally knocking door to door, doing the old school acrylic paints and putting up signage for people, freehand. Yeah. So, that's how we sort of started out. You know what I mean?
I remember when going back to what you said about the teachers, there was actually a point when there was no teacher and the class was led by a supply teacher. But we were so fortunate. The supply teacher was absolutely great. And I remember I can't remember her name, which is really bad of me, but I remember the first thing she said was, all the people who are right-handed come to this side, all the people left-handed come to this side. And there's a new rule now. If you're right-handed, you have to draw with your left hand. So if you're left-handed, you got to draw with your right hand. And the reason behind it was she's trying to take the element of control away from you and see how you can express yourself without the control. It's a mad exercise because some of the things we produce were probably the best things we ever produced.
See, I never did art because it was because of that, because I sensed something was going to happen to the art department. And I thought, do you know what? I can't be dealing with my GCSEs, especially if it's going to affect my overall grade.
It was a big gamble that I took. I just took it on because I loved it. And then we had a new teacher come in, Miss Thacker. And she basically converted the whole department into at that time it was, Photoshop was a new thing. And she brought in another member of staff who had the IT behind art. And we had Photoshop. We were one of the first schools at that time to have Photoshop, which was amazing. And even though we had a wavy year, 1 year, I think the end result made up for it because in the A-level class, I think eight students, I think out of the 8, 7 of them got an A.
Yeah.
And one of them got a B, which is
I
massive.
remember there was like you, there was Lee Hutchinson. I think Dwayne France did quite well in his art as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, in the end, I did kind of regret it, man. I thought, actually, you know what, art was one of the things.
But technically,
I was really
you're still in
at.
it because the job you're doing is all about vision and.
Yeah, I never came. Yeah, that was the thing. Like I said, I worked in recruitment for 6 years, but I don't know how much of a backstory you want, man. To be fair, but put like this, like I don't know what your impression of me was when I was at Lordswood. It would be interesting to know actually. What was your impression?
You was a perfectionist. Every time you used to do anything, you used to spend time on it and make sure it's done and you dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and he was like that. I was more of not a perfectionist, but an expressionist. I just want to get my expression out there. Whether it's complete, incomplete. Some of my best pieces of work were half finished and it just looked like this guy didn't have time to finish it because he moved on to something else.
It's interesting you say that because, see, I always thought of myself differently, man. Like the funny thing with me is like I went through my GCSEs actually not knowing what I was doing. Like I had a head on my shoulders, obviously. I wasn't like stupid, but equally like I had my flaws. Like I used to struggle with exams. So like I don't know if you know, but my predicted grades were a lot higher than what I actually got in the end.
What was that, stress or?
Yeah, I used to get nervous. Like I got nervous and that lived with me right the way through to university. So I always underperformed in my exams, basically. And it always held me back.
And in them days, it's quite heavy exams were. Like now it's blended, it's coursework, presentations. It's like a mixed blend. But at that time, it was like 90% exams.
Man. And and even when I went to, I spent like 1 day at Halesowen College and I interviewed for King Edward's. And then they called me up, I think within the first week. And they were like, yeah, look, we've got our places opened up, basically, do you want to come? Because my older brother had been there as well. I went to King Eddie's sixth form. And I think Ziggy was the only other person that went there. But none of us knew that.
Big shout out to Ziggy.
Yeah, big shout out to Ziggy.
Another one of our friends from back in the day.
He is, man. And you know what? Props to Ziggy as well, because I mean, he works for like a pharmaceuticals company at the moment. And you know, I think, you know, friends always look out for friends, man. And you know, he's helped me out quite a lot. So, you know, he's brought a lot of business my way through the business that he works for. So yeah, man, shout out to Ziggy, man.
That's a good thing. From my experiences and interactions early on, we kind of trust each other. And that's what made me come to you. Like, I could have gone to anybody. Yeah.
I had no doubt, man. It's like, as soon as you said, look, do you want to do the podcast? I was like, well, do you know what? I know you. I see you on Instagram and everything. Even though we've kind of not been in touch, we've sort of kept in touch just through kind of social. So yeah, man, I had no problems kind of doing this. I thought it'd be interesting.
Going back to the 3 strands of the business. So your job is obviously to manage most of it or oversee it. So tell us, on a typical day, what do you actually do when you go into the office? Yeah. What time do you go in? How many coffees do you have?
I don't even drink coffee, man. I can't handle it.
Is it Red Bull?
No. Do you know what? I'm a no joke. I'm a water person, man. Water, green tea. I cleaned up my my diet, man, big time. But in terms of like what I do, so basically, like at the moment, there's me, my brother, mum and dad are still in the business. Then we've got 2 people in sales, and a driver, basically, and a couple of people in accounts. So there's about 7 of us. There was 9 of us kind of in January, but we had to streamline ourselves a little bit.
That's just business, brutal side of business.
Yeah, that's just business, isn't it? But yeah, so my actual job is looking after the marketing. Yeah. But obviously, as you know, when it's a family business and it's a small business, you haven't just got the one job.
You got to be adaptable and pick up the slack, yeah.
Pick up the slack, yeah. So I do. I mean, I spend a lot of my time, like today, for example. You know, I get up at 4:45. Yeah. Obviously, you get myself ready. You know, I meditate every single day in the morning, even if it's 5 minutes. Yeah, I've got 5 minutes. I meditate before I leave. You know, you get to work for about 8, half 8 some days. Obviously, you check up on your emails and stuff. First thing I do, man, is you respond. At the moment, the way it is, you're responding to the inquiries. Yeah, so I spend probably 70% of my time at the moment is on selling. Yeah, and I'm probably only spending 30% of my time on the marketing, what I actually should be doing. But in normal circumstances, it'd be more of a 50-50 split. So I'd be looking at, okay, you know, what are we doing on our social media? What content are we going to be putting out? What case studies do you want to be talking about? You know, what type of e-shots should be going out to people? How can we bring in new clients? So like one of my things, so one of the things that I brought to the firm was when I worked in recruitment, I got exposed to LinkedIn. And back then, LinkedIn had just released something called the recruiter license. Yeah. And they only released it to a handful of people. And I was lucky enough because I worked for Hayes Recruitment. They're a global player in the recruitment game. I just got lucky basically because I was using LinkedIn already and I'd managed to find a few people from it, found them jobs and made some money from it for the business and for myself. And that got recognized basically by somebody and one of my managers. And they were like, look, LinkedIn are giving out these licenses. It's worth, I think it was worth like £200 at the time. And they're like, we want you to have one and we want to see what you can do with it. So they gave me all this training basically. So I got all this inside knowledge on LinkedIn and how to find people, how to headhunt people and like all the different things that you could do with it. And it started making me money. And I was making money quicker using LinkedIn than using job sites to find my candidates and things like that. And then I used that same skill, the same technique, I used it for our business when I came in. So I set up all of our social profiles and just started targeting people basically on LinkedIn. And before you know it, you know, I had people responding and found out, well, actually, you know what, we get quite a good response to LinkedIn. So it's just finding channels like that. We do a lot of networking as well. Obviously not now with everything that I know Amar doesn't want to hear this, but with COVID, obviously all the exhibitions and events have been cancelled, but networking is key, man.
One of the key things that came to my attention on your social media was some of these award ceremonies that you've been to.
Yeah.
So talk us through that. What's that all about?
So believe it or not, we've never actually put ourselves up for an award. We haven't won an award yet. But for me personally, it's not about like the awards you win. Do you know what I mean? I think is what kind of you said earlier. It's like like, for example, for you, your students, effectively, they do your marketing because you train them well. They go on, they compete, they win. You know, if anything, it's always going to be a credit to you. You know what I mean? And that's your marketing. And it's the same in business as well. I think there's two types of businesses. Yeah, you got one business which is all about, look, I want to get the awards, this and that, which is all good. Nothing wrong with getting awards. But then there's another business that just says, you know what, you can have all the awards that you want, but like if you're a business and you don't know how to treat your customers, do you know what I mean? Like what's more important? So for us, it was a case of, right, let's just build up our credibility. Do you know what I mean? Let's just do good work for people. Let that do the talking. And then if, as a default, you know, we get nominated for an award or something like that, you know, that's cool, and you win, that's cool. But then otherwise, no. So, I mean, our tact with award ceremonies is now, for us, we sponsored a lot of these awards events. And the reason we did
that's
that was...
what I noticed. I noticed that even though, like you said, you wasn't there to win the award, it looked like you owned the ceremony because your branding was everywhere. And that's obviously, for me, from somebody looking outside in, it looks like, well, this is the Dr. Print Award ceremony.
Yeah, so who's running the show? Yeah. So for us, like the angle on that was, well, look, sponsor an event. And when you sponsor an event, all of a sudden your brand is exposed to hundreds or thousands of people, depending on whatever the footfall is at the event, of people that may have never have heard of you. But because your name's on the banner, your name's on the screen, your name's being mentioned by the MC, all of a sudden something clicks in their head and it's like, oh, hang on, like how, you know, who are these guys basically? And if anything, even if somebody just looks you up, yeah, like some of the business that we've done, it's from people that have contacted us from an event that they had been to like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And they're like, oh yeah, we remembered you guys, we followed you. Like I've never even seen them like a post. Yeah. But the fact is people follow you. Yeah. And they watch you. And sometimes, you know, people will watch you for a year, 2 years before they even pick up the phone to you. And that's the beauty with kind of when you're sponsoring events and you're doing exhibitions and things like that. All right, you might not get an immediate monetary gain from that. So you know, you might spend $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 sponsoring an event, and you think, flipping out, you know, I could have used that money for something else. But you reap the rewards from that afterwards. Basically,
it's a long-term benefit.
It's a long-term, yeah. So with marketing, and it's the same thing we speak to about our customers. It's like, well, when they come to us and they're like, all right, look, you know, I need some merchandise doing, or you know, I need some clothing branded. It's like our first question is, well, what's the purpose? Like everything that we do, and I believe everything that you do for your business or in your personal life should be driven by purpose. You know what I mean? Like obviously there's a lot of people that come to your gym, yeah, but I bet if you asked 10 of them, yeah, you pick 10 of them, what's your reason for coming? I guarantee you that all would give a slightly different reason other than I want to get fit. Yeah. But if you drill down to the actual purpose, yeah, every single one of them would be different. Do you know what I mean? And it's the exact same thing in business. There's nothing different.
Going back to the name, obviously Dr. Print. Tell us about the name. Is there somebody who's classified as the doctor of the business?
Do you know what? I don't know if you saw like an older version of the website, man. We gave everybody character. We might bring it back actually, because that was like the fun part of our business. But we all had names basically. Like my dad was called, I think he was called the Big Doc. I was the Mad Doc, because I probably had more ideas in my head than kind of was probably good for me or was healthy. Do you know what I mean? So I was called the Mad Doc. My brother was the print surgeon because, like, technically speaking, he knew everything. Do you know what I mean? Like if there was a technical question
so
about
everybody's
print,
medical.
Yeah. So everybody, yeah, we went down this kind of medical theme. And I mean, the name, how it came about, to be honest, I think it was my dad that came up with the name. And the business actually used to be called, it was named after my dad. So, you know, dad's name was Ragbir Singh Nandra. So the business was called RS Nandra, trading as 4-color printers. That was our original name. and it did well for us, to be honest. And then all of a sudden, like when the kind of the retail sort of business declined and we were going through this big change, we just felt that at the time we needed just a fresh start. You know what I mean? Like a fresh name and everything. And I think I pretty much remember, I was quite young back then, but we were brainstorming ideas in the living room. And my dad just came out with what about Dr. Print? And I think at the time, my dad's younger brother had just qualified as a doctor as well. And I just think he liked the
Just
ring of it.
relevant at the time.
Yeah, it was just relevant.
But it's actually quite a catchy name.
Yeah, and that was it. And we spoke to a few people and they were like, you know what, it's got a ring to it. Keep it. A couple of years ago, we actually thought we'd go for another rebrand and we thought about changing the name. But then we just felt that, you know what, there was so much equity in the name already. We didn't want to lose it, basically. So
I think it's quite a catchy name, good name.
yeah, it was a good name. Like I said, you know what, a lot of businesses have like these stories of how they come up with the name and stuff. Literally, there isn't one. Like, we're in the living room and my dad just popped out with the name.
The consistent theme I'm seeing, obviously you said it's a family business. You got that ethical value of being together, and obviously you made the decision as a family. So even though there isn't much thought process, like you said, about picking the name, the actual process is like a togetherness, teamwork, family ethic, which means you trust each other and you rely on each other, which is good. And obviously it's paid off, so it must have been the right decision. So obviously we're going to talk about big brands. So ultimately, what's the top 5 logos or brands that you've seen in your career and why? What's made them so effective?
For me, I think I'd have to go down the retail route, to be honest. Like one, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know why this logo stands out to me, but the All Saints logo, I'm actually wearing it right now, actually. It's like a ram skull. Yeah. And for me, I don't know, man. It's just, there's just something about it. Like I've always been into like nature, man. I like learning about animals and dinosaurs and stuff like that. So I've always been into that kind of stuff. So whenever I see a logo and it incorporates like a part of nature in it, for some reason it stands out to me. And in actual fact, I think I know why that is as well, because like I do like, I always look for like ethical ways of doing things. Do you know what I mean? And like at the moment, for example, I don't know if I should be talking about this on a podcast, right? But I was looking for a face cream, right? Sorry, like the ones that you peel off.
That's a mask.
Yeah, that's a mask, isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah. I don't know. It's just a
this.
face wash, man. It's just a face wash, isn't it? But I was looking for one that was like more ethical, man. And it doesn't have like the sodium lauryl sulfate and all the crap and all the chemicals in it. And I came across this brand called Bulldog. But if I think about it, like what I've just said in terms of like why I'm attracted to this kind of stuff, I don't know. But the Bulldog brand obviously features a bulldog on there, and Bulldog's got nothing to do
with face cream,
with kind of face cream or skincare or anything like that. It was just a brand. Now, I'd love to speak to the owner of Bulldog, whoever started that brand, and ask him, well, what made you pick a bulldog? You know, it could be that he just likes bulldogs. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, there's, for me, yeah, it's the All Saints logo, man. I just think it's so simple. And it's one color. I like one color logos as well. I don't like, our own Dr. Print's got 2 colors, yeah. So I've just contradicted myself there, right? But I do like, for me, like when we're designing logos, I like flat, one color, maximum 2 color sort of logos. And the reason for that is actually from like a branding perspective, there's so much more you can do with a 1 color logo or a 2 color logo. I just think like when you start confusing it with loads of colors, it doesn't do it for me, man.
See, my degree, yeah, there was one whole module within the studies about color and about contrast. And obviously the degree I did was in architecture.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, so basically I'm a qualified architectural technologist. But one of the items that was hot at the time was about making buildings more accessible for disabled people. And when you say disabled people, it's not just people in a wheelchair. It's people with visual impairments. And the contrast, I don't know if you see in public buildings, but sometimes you look at doors and windows and certain areas where you circulation space and have vivid contrast. between certain surfaces and door frames and doors and things like that. Or doors will have certain type of fenestration to stop people putting their hand through the glass. And it's all around design. And what you said about 2 colors, normally it follows a theme of 2-3 colors. And it's to help people who have visual impairment to see where the door is and where the door frame is. Whereas in a home environment, you might paint everything the same. For example, a classic Georgian house would have a white door frame and a white door, normally glossed. But if somebody with a visual impairment went there, they would struggle to find where the door starts and where the door ends. And also plates, push plates are normally different colors. And they're normally made of a different material to give that feel. So if somebody's completely blind, they can have a feel to see where the push plate is. So with my education, it was all about every design has a purpose and is there for a reason. It has a purpose. And that goes back to what you're saying about color. Like you like to keep it limited because the purpose is you have more applications on that particular
there's so
design.
many more applications. It's so much easier just to apply it to different things. There's less complications, to be honest. But
so going back to your clientele, who's the biggest client that you worked with?
Biggest client.
It doesn't have to be in terms of mainstream, just what you got out of the project for you personally.
Biggest client I can talk about. Obviously we do,
you don't have to name them, just talk about the experience and just...
No, I can name this one, because we've worked with them and it was quite recent as well. And to be honest, everything I've talked about so far, it brought all of that together. And it was Bentley and Lamborghini, basically. But like everything I've set up until now, this was a perfect example because the way Bentley and Lamborghini came about was it was one of those companies where you think, do you know what? Wouldn't it be nice to do work for a business like that? Yeah. Especially like I'm into my cars and stuff as well. And like I love Lamborghinis. It's one of my favorite cars. And we sponsored an event, basically me and my brother. And it was at the Belfry Hotel and Golf Resort.
Golf club, yeah.
Yeah. And we didn't know who this guy was at the time, but it was the golf sales manager from there. And he just came over to our stand and he just got chatting and, he liked the stuff that we were doing. And, he just said, well, look, when the show's over and stuff, like, let's meet up afterwards for a coffee. It's going back a few years, this is. And so we met him, we took him up on that and we met him for a coffee after the show. And obviously talked about, business and, most of it, to be fair, half of that conversation was just us having a laugh, to be honest. And we went away and, we didn't come back with anything. There was no business done, no deal signed, nothing like that.
Just like an icebreaker.
Yeah. But what the guy said at the end is, he was like, yeah, he goes, you know what? He goes, obviously, I like you guys. And obviously he gets some big clients at the Belfry. You got professional golf players kind of there. You've got kind of everybody.
Community,
affluent community. You get a lot of celebrities and stuff that come and stay there as well. And he said, yeah, look, I will speak to people kind of about what you do. And when they're organising golf days, I'll send them your way. A year went by, 2 years went by, we heard nothing. And it was just one of those things. He was a nice guy. We invited him to one of the Chamber of Commerce events that we sponsored a year after. Again, just thought, we'd invite him along because he turned out to be a bit of a, turned out to become, a bit of a friend, to be honest. And invited him along. He came along, and then literally, I think it was about a year after he came to that event, just got an email out of the blue. Yeah, just, hi Gurj, got Bentley's doing a golf event at the Belfry, kind of on this date. I've name dropped you. Here's the name and number of the person you need to speak to. Have a chat with her. Basically, and I thought, sweet, that's cool. Yeah, you know what I mean. Had a chat with kind of the marketing lady there, and that was it. We ended up doing they had a golf day, and they wanted to give like these nice golf gift sets away to people that attended the event. So we did these. I don't know if you know much about golfing. I don't, to be fair, but basically there's different types of golf balls, different quality ones, and they went for like these nice kind of Pro V1 golf balls. With tees in a set. And then after that, we did a few more jobs for them as well. We ended up doing like their water bottles and things like that. And Lamborghini was a bonus because we didn't actually think we'd be doing any work for Lamborghini. But if you've ever been to the Bentley garage, Lamborghini's in the same building.
Is that Birmingham?
Birmingham. Yeah.
I've been past it. I've not been in there.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm still saving up.
I never, yeah, mate. It's the same with me. Honestly, I was having a field day, man. It's like,
Yeah, I'm still saving up because, the coffee machine is really expensive. So I'm still putting the money together to buy a coffee.
Mate.
I'm
Soon,
not going to buy a
man,
Lamborghini.
couple of years in it, you'll have one. But yeah, it was surreal, man, because one, I'd never thought I'd step foot into a Bentley Lamborghini garage ever in my life. And then here I was, like, literally, I had a thought, it would be good to work for this company. And there it was. Like, it wasn't like given to me, like we worked for it, but it took like 2 or 3 years before we actually, got to
And when you do one job well, it leads to another job.
Yeah,
that's kind of like.
I can give you one other example as well, a quick one. The other good one was, again, and this one's weird because I don't know how many, do you like read books and stuff as well?
Sometimes, yeah. I do personally. Yeah.
Have you read The Secret by Rhonda Byrne?
No.
Okay. So I read this book a couple of years ago, basically, and obviously, like, a lot of people have read it, and I'd watched there's like a TV, there's like a show on, not a show, like a little film made about it as well. And obviously the idea is that, look, your thoughts become kind of things. And, if you kind of have a positive mindset and you think about something enough, you can make it happen. And they've done like case studies on Henry T. Ford, for example. People told him that, he's never going to be able to build a car. What did he do, man? He built something that was on 4 wheels that would move. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it was revolutionary, and they've got loads of examples in that book. And I watched The Apprentice. Yeah, I love The Apprentice, man. And one of the years, there was 2 winners. There was James White from Right Time Recruitment, and there was the other lady, the one who does the sweets, City Sweets. I can't remember her name. But James White, basically, I didn't know, but he's Birmingham based, and he joined the Birmingham Chamber of Commerce, which we were a part of as well. So they publish a magazine, and it comes out to all the members. Flicking through the magazine, and in there was Right Time Recruitment, James White, winner of The Apprentice, has joined the chamber, and I thought, that's wicked, man. And I just had a thought. Basically, I just thought, and I remember my brother was in the room at the time. I said, you know what? It'd be cool if we could do some work for them. And that was it. And we left it at that. It was just empty conversation, just a thought. And then the next thing I know, like, I think a couple of months later, we received an e-shot to say, James White is doing kind of sort of like what we're doing here, but not a podcast, but in front of a small group of people, like a
presentation.
Yeah, like a bit of a presentation, just so people could learn about who he is, his experience in The Apprentice, and what he's doing now and developing the business in Birmingham. And I thought, yeah, you know what, it'd be good to go along. I might get a chance to meet him even. Do you know what I mean? And went along, and I was the first one there. Got there early, basically. It was me and one other person. And I thought, this is a bit shit, man. First one there. But I was lucky. And I didn't know it was happening at the time, but the next person to walk in was James White and his business partner. They walked in, and all I said at the time, because I'm one of those people, man, if I meet a celebrity, if I ever meet a celebrity, that is, I kind of get starstruck. Yeah, and I actually don't know what to say. And all I could do was shake his hand and say hello. And that was it. There was no conversation. Yeah. And he sort of moved on politely. And I thought, shit, man, that was the opportunity. That was my chance. Yeah. And it's gone. And it was like an hour-long thing. And during the event, somebody asked him a question, right? And he shouted out to, like, he had a few of his team members there. And he said, my marketing person at the back. And that's when my ears pricked up, and I said, marketing person. I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm not good at speaking to people that are high profile, or I perceive as kind of having a high profile, or celebrities. And I always mess up my words. But let me go and speak to the marketing lady, man. And so there was a little breakout area, and that's the first thing I did. I went straight over to the marketing person, and I just got chatting to her, just like we are now. It wasn't about work. And just got talking. She found out about what I did, found out about what she did. And I just simply got her to follow my Instagram. Basically, follow my Instagram and follow my LinkedIn page. And that was it. And then from there, because I knew that we were posting out content regularly at the time, I knew that they would see it, or she would see it at least. And she's the key she's the key person of influence in that situation there. We just started marketing. I dropped her a message on LinkedIn, nice to meet you and stuff. Then I heard back literally within 3 months of them viewing the content. And I could see that they were viewing my content because obviously, as you know, Instagram business gives you insights. Yeah. And you can see who's looking. So I knew that they were following. Received an email a few months later. We need help with our merch. We ended up doing, some notebooks, pens and mugs for them. But what really helped us out was, I don't know how it came about, but we were doing an exhibition somewhere and we were working with a social media agency at the time. And literally I'd got a call from the media agency to say, have you checked your Twitter? And I was like, nah, what's going on? They were like, check your Twitter right now. And I checked it and there was a picture of Lord Sugar holding the mug that we'd printed and the notebook and the pen.
So it went up the ladder quick.
Yeah, that was it. And obviously that Lord Sugar hadn't posted it. I think a picture was taken and it was sent into Right Time Recruitment and they posted it. And they tagged us in it. And before we got back to the office, so we finished the exhibition and went back to the office for about 3:00. And we had calls from about probably 10 other recruitment agencies that wanted to work with us simply because of that picture. So it did, do you know what I mean? And again, it's a shout out to Right Time Recruitment for that, because effectively, one little thing that, we just worked with them.
Springboards you
It was good enough for us to work with them and we didn't ask for that. But, they did something, they tagged us in and, they gave us credit, for the work that we did. And ultimately it helped us to win more business.
So as a director for Dr. Print, let's say a 15-year-old, 16-year-old young person came in for an opportunity or some kind of a project that you offered them, maybe a competition. What's the one standout skill you'll be looking for as a director of that company? Or is there more? Maybe 3 or 4? Or what would you personally look out for in that person? What would give that person the gig?
Yeah, there'd be a few things, man. I think above all else, like the one thing that we place the most value on is actually their attitude to work. So we may have a designer, for example, that may not be the most creative at the time, yeah, but they might show us that actually, they're willing to learn, yeah, and they're taking steps to increase their knowledge on typography. So like one of the questions that we actually ask at interview is, how do you keep up to date with kind of, the latest trends and what's happening in the design world? Yeah. And what we're looking for kind of in that answer is actually what they're doing outside of their day-to-day to keep up to.
Like a personal development.
Personal development, yeah. So, we've had some good answers in the past and, there are some people that they keep up with kind of blogs and magazines like online digital magazines like Creative Block. It's one that I'm not a designer, but I read that religiously because it keeps you up to date in terms of what Pantones are trending, what are going to be the hottest kind of typography fonts, for this year. What are Apple doing, for example, do you know what I mean? And it gives you all this knowledge basically, which is useful to you as a designer. So it's like, what else are they doing above and beyond just designing day to day? Do you know what I mean? So attitude to work and not attitude to work, sorry, that their aptitude to kind of learn outside of what they're already doing is one major thing that we look for. The next is the attitude as well, to be fair. Is it going to be somebody that, if you present them with a challenge? So one of the things that we do in our interview process is we set them, so we've got like these preset tasks that we never used to do it, but we brought it in. Again, something that I brought in when I came into the business. And we set them these preset tasks. So we've got like a made up business basically. And we've got some kind of logos and stuff as well. And then we set them this little project brief. Yeah, almost like a mock logo brief, or it could be a mock flyer brief. And we'd get them to complete it and we'd time them basically. So we'd give them, they can do it from home or whatever, but we'd give them like 4 hours or 2 hours or whatever we think is suitable for that. Yeah, so we would apply a bit of pressure and we'd see. And the most interesting thing we found by doing that was say we conducted 10 interviews like that and we got 10 people to do the task, only like 3 or 4 people would actually complete the task and come back to us. Some of them would never email us back. Some of them would never pick up the phone to us again. Do you know what I mean? And for us, that just shows us how hungry they actually are. Do they just want the job, or are they just looking? Like, are they just kind of putting the feelers out to see, what else is out there? Do you know what I mean? Or are they actually hungry for it, basically? So, you've got kind of your attitude to work. You've got, what people are doing outside of kind of the normal hours. And then the third thing would actually be skill, because I think that's important. You know what I mean? And it's like, how creative are they actually? Do you know what I mean? And what are they actually capable of? And where can we help them improve things? And how can they help us grow as a business? And how can we help them grow? So it's not always about what's on the CV. Basically, you got to. Having worked in recruitment for 6 years, the CV doesn't tell you everything.
Doesn't paint a true picture, does it?
Doesn't paint a true picture, because until somebody's in the job and doing the job, you don't know what they're going to be like.
So just to kind of wrap up, we normally, or we do it religiously, ask the client to give us the last few sentences, words of wisdom. What's more important for somebody who's chasing success? Is it the sacrifice, the dedication, or the group of people to surround themselves with?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I like that one. That's something I can answer. So, see, for me, success, right? I mean, if you ask me right now, are you successful? I would say not yet. Yeah. And you could probably ask me the same question in 10 years and I'll be like, not yet. So like, success for me, man, it's a long-term thing, is success. And success is like when you're actually happy kind of in yourself and you're comfortable. But I don't think you ever are successful alone. Yeah. So it is about the people that you're after. It is about the people that you're with and the people that you surround yourself with. So like, for me, obviously, like, family is a big thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, what my family is a part of the business, the business is the family, as well. But if there were people within kind of my family which, were negative or that didn't believe in the same vision, then we'd have to cut them. I'd have to drop them out of the business. But I think we've been fortunate in that sense that, like, everybody has the same vision and everybody wants to succeed, which is why, we're on this. Well, I feel like we're on this like trajectory, and we're slowly getting there. But yeah, it is about the people, man. Like, everything we do, like, think back to the conversation that we've just had. Like, whenever I talk, it's always about being with people, collaborating, like working with people. So we're big believers, man. If you don't have the right team in place, it's going to take you longer to achieve what you want to achieve. Got the right people around you, you achieve. I think a good example recently, I watched the Defiant Ones on Netflix, documentary about Dr. Dre. And to be honest, look, if it wasn't for name escapes me now, his partner, what was his name?
He's had quite a few, hasn't he, Dr.
Yeah,
Dre?
yeah, yes. There was a main guy in the documentary, but basically, if it wasn't for the main guy that was with him, who was also a producer, and they didn't have that conversation where he misheard sneakers for speakers, that Beats by Dre would never have happened. Do you know what I mean? And if it wasn't for that guy's contacts and his relationship with kind of Apple and his network, it would never have happened. But obviously, Dr. Dre, he trusted this guy. Do you know what I mean? He was a friend. And, he had the right people around him and they made it happen. And what happened, man, he's the first black billionaire, isn't he? So, it's about the people that you're with, as well as kind of, the hunger that you've got yourself.